Hello and welcome to this week's video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Camille. I'm a foreigner, expat, immigrant, whatever you want to call me, living in Seoul, South Korea, and I like to talk about it on the internet. Sometimes I talk about my job, sometimes I talk about my life, and other times, apparently, I talk about all of it, which is what I'm doing today. Today's video is an AMA or an Ask Me Anything. So yeah. If you're like really new to the channel and you have no idea who I am, I do not blame you at all, but here's some background. So I've been living in South Korea for exactly 2 years. I'm Canadian. I have a goal to live on every continent, and in my late 20s, I'm currently living in Asia. And the first year I was here, I worked as an English teacher at a private academy, and then about 8 months ago, I moved to Gangnam, so like right in the busy part of Seoul, I mean all of Seoul is busy, to work in the PR industry. So now I'm an editor at a PR firm. A few days ago, I posted an Instagram story on my page. This is my Instagram page. Feel free to follow if you find any of that aesthetically pleasing. Anyways, I posted a story there inviting people to ask me questions, and then these are the questions that they asked me. It's pretty straightforward. Hopefully these answers that I provide give you a little more insight about what it's like as a foreigner living in South Korea. And if you have any other questions, anything that I didn't cover or wasn't asked, then be sure to head down to the comment section on this video, and maybe I'll gather some of those questions and do a part 2 if there's enough of them. Let us jump into the questions. So the first couple of questions are all about like how I feel about living in Korea, whether I want to move, how long I want to stay here, etc. So the first one is, how long do you see yourself living in Korea, and where else would you live? So right now the game plan is for me to stay here for maybe 2 or 3 more years. When I moved here, I didn't really have a strict timeline. Like some people come and they say, I'm only gonna be here for 1 year, or I'm gonna be here for 5 years, or I'm gonna be here for the rest of my life. But for me, I was just sort of like seeing how it went and was just gonna make a call based on experience. There are a couple of different factors that are contributing to that like 2 to 3 year forecast. You know, things like friends coming and going, I'm not in a relationship, I really like my job, like those are all things that sort of contribute to that timeline. If I had no friends and I hated my job, then I probably wouldn't be sticking around. And if I found myself in a long-term relationship with someone that I really cared about, whose entire life was here, then that too would contribute to maybe me staying longer than 2 to 3 years. So I'm just kind of calling it as it comes, but at the moment, 2 to 3 years seems to be how much longer I plan on staying. The second half of the question was whether or not I would live somewhere else, and like, yes, absolutely. I am really looking forward to living all over the world. Like I said, it's a really big life motivator for me. Is that a weird thing to say? But that's just a goal that I've had for a really long time. I used to want to travel to every country, but then that seemed to be way more overwhelming than living in every continent. So I readjusted the game plan. But yeah, some of the other cities that I am considering living in or would love to live in are cities like Paris. I would love to go back to Melbourne. Where else do I want to go? Where else? I mean, I would live in any major city, like a New York or an LA would be really cool. I think Amsterdam would be an awesome place to live. Literally any city that will have me, that has a population of like over 3 million, I'm down to live in, for sure. I'd also even like to live in some other major Canadian cities. Like I'd love to live in Montreal for sure, and maybe, I don't know if I could do Vancouver. I don't know if I'm really a Vancouver girl, but Montreal, I'd also love to live in Montreal for a period of time. So the next question is, do you have any plans to return to Canada? And at the moment, I don't. I mean, I will visit, of course. I will probably visit at some point during this calendar year. But in terms of moving home permanently, I don't have any plan to do that at the moment. Like even when I do leave Seoul and I head to a different place, I'm hoping that I don't have to go back to Canada. And this comes from the fact that when I was living in Melbourne, so I graduated from university and I moved to Melbourne, and then I got into a really bad situation with my live-in boyfriend, and I had to leave rather quickly. Like I basically left in 48 hours, and I had nothing set up for me back in Canada, so I ended up having to move back in with my parents, and I had no job. I had to work retail again. Not that there's anything wrong with living with your parents or working retail, but it was just like a hard reset for me, someone who had been living independently on the other side of the world, to have to be so dependent on other people. So the idea of having to move back to Canada in between other international stays is kind of like unappealing to me for that reason. Next up, would you ever want to permanently live in South Korea? And the answer to that at the moment is no. The reason why is just because it's challenging. Yeah, that's basically the only way to say it. I think, again, like, it all depends on circumstance. If I were to have a partner whose entire life was here, then see, even when I'm mid-sentence that way, I know the answer is no, because I would never end up, I don't think I would ever end up with a person who didn't have the same appetite for travel. So like, even if they were here and their whole life was here, then we would stay together here for some time. But if they're truly my soulmate, then they would also want to explore the world with me and live in other places with me. So I think I can confidently answer this question as no, I would not want to permanently move here. But if you think about it in terms of like, would I ever make South Korea or Seoul my home base? I think that depends on basically whether or not my life partner has Seoul as their home base, or wherever in the world their home base is, or where we decide to make our home base together. Does that make sense? So it might be Seoul, but even if this is what we call home, it's never gonna be my permanent place, because I don't think anywhere in the world will ever be my permanent home. I just wanna live in so many places and there's not a lot of time. I don't have time to have a permanent address. And then also on top of that, like I find it quite challenging to live here, just also because of my relationship with language learning and speaking second languages. It's really stressful for me to communicate in my second language or in any language that's not English. So the thought of kind of constantly having to be challenged in that way for the rest of my life, even if I become fluent, I don't think I'll ever become comfortable. And so that is also a reason why I don't think that I would ever make South Korea my permanent home. Unless maybe I go to therapy and I get over that. Another question I got was, what's your favorite thing about living in South Korea? I think what I love about South Korea so much, or my time here, or who I've become because I lived here, what opportunity I got from living abroad, particularly in South Korea, 100%, it has pushed me to become more extroverted. Like, it's actually wild. I think I've mentioned this in videos before, but people just do stuff here. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like, I don't know, it feels like this whole country is extroverted. Like, people are always out doing stuff. Like, I'm always going to restaurants, I'm always going to cafes, I'm doing activities like bowling, archery, rock climbing. Like, I'm going for walks along the Han River, or like I'm going there, yeah, just to chill, but like I'm outdoors, and then like I'll meet other people. We'll get a big group and we'll go to Noraebang. Like, it just, so much more of my life is spent outside of my apartment. And a lot of that first just came from a necessity to build a social circle, but even more so now, it's just become a habit and changed the type of person that I am. Like, I'm sure if I took my MBTI again, I'd probably scale closer to extroverted, whereas when I originally took it, I'm 100% for sure introverted. So the next question, which I don't think I have any authority to reply to, is, wait, what is it? Any tips on finding your style? One thing that I realized when I moved to Korea was that people were gonna look at me, not in the way that some people talk about it, like getting stared at on the subway. Like, yeah, that happens, but it's like so few and far between in my experience. But I do definitely feel like people will look at me more here depending on what neighborhood I'm in. And so just thinking about the fact that people were gonna look at me anyways actually made me feel less like concerned about what people would think about what I was wearing. Like, for example, in Toronto, like, I just always wanted to wear what was considered stylish or fashionable to just fit in with the group, whereas now it's like, I'm never gonna fit in with the group, so why don't I just wear whatever I want? And I guess that has maybe transformed my style in the last couple of years, but also I think, you know, style is what you make of it. Everyone has their own personal style, and I think confidence is also really important to delivering on what you're wearing. Does that make sense? Like, if you feel good, you look good. I think that the reason why my style game might be becoming stronger while I've been living in Korea is because I buy what I like, I don't care what anybody thinks, and I feel good about what I put on my body, and that shines through. But also steal from fashionable friends. What's it like knowing you're the main character? Thank you, James. I'm not the main character. I mean, I think everyone is a main character in their own life, obviously, but I used to want so desperately to deliver on main character energy, and like I think sometimes I still like will look at a picture of myself and I'm like, yeah, that's main character vibes. But I also realized that what I really want to be is like the author of my own story. You know what I mean? Like, I want to write and pick what happens to me and like, you know, live my story the way I want it. I've been appreciating the opportunity for main character energy, finding those moments to be confident and give that vibe, but at the same time, on like a day-to-day, I'm trying to live into my author moment where I make my life what I want it to be. Everyone has main character moments, you just have to learn how to find them, and everyone is an author of their own story. So go out there and write a bestseller, baby. This is why I'm not a motivational speaker. But anyways, what do you do when you feel lonely in South Korea? And this kind of goes back to the question about how, or what's my favorite thing about Korea and like how Korea changed me. I think, like I said, I've definitely become more extroverted, and part of that was just like a must do, a survival instinct. And I think it's the same thing, like when I do feel lonely here, I try to focus on what I have, not on what I don't or what's missing. Like I think, especially when you're going through culture shock, because you know, everyone does. So when you're going through those hard moments, especially at the beginning, when you're adjusting, when you've gone through the honeymoon period and you're just like, shit, I'm on the other side of the world and I have like one friend who I've known for like 2 months. I have no idea if they're gonna be there for me. You don't know until you ask, and then you find out that yeah, they are gonna be there, or if they're not, then you're gonna find somebody else. So if you're ever feeling lonely in South Korea or wherever you are in the world, I think the best thing that you can do, or the best thing that I've learned how to do, is just to reach out to people. And you don't just have to reach out to people that you have here. Like, of course you can reach out to the people that you miss at home if that's what's making you feel lonely. Like honestly, thank God that we have Zoom and stuff. If I had to sit here like writing like handwritten notes and then they had to get mailed across the ocean for like 3 weeks and then I had to wait for them to come back, like I would die. Something I've learned is that even when I'm feeling lonely, I'm not alone. Next up, we've got, where do you find non-teaching jobs in Seoul? So I was actually surprised this was the only work-related question that I got. I thought I would be getting a lot more work-related questions, but this is a quick one. So the 2 places that I used to find non-teaching jobs, or where I found my job, was peopleandjob.co.korea. I think it might just be peopleandjob.com now. And LinkedIn. And I actually just did a quick search before I made this video, and there's tons of jobs, especially in marketing and communications, on both of those platforms right now. Yeah, that's definitely where I suggest. But also, now that I've worked in the industry for 8 months, I realized that a lot of positions are filled with headhunters. So based on my experience, now I would also recommend, if you're interested in finding a job particularly in marketing and communications, or I guess really any non-teaching job probably, I'd suggest you network. Yeah, because headhunters are reaching out to people in positions all the time, and if you're networking with a person and that person gets headhunted for a job but they think that you're a good fit, then there's a chance that they'll forward that job description to you, a job description that might not be available publicly on the platforms, or they might suggest you or share your information with the headhunter, who will then reach out. So I would definitely suggest networking, especially if you're also a little bit like later in your career, if you're more of an intermediate, is that what it's called? No, an intermediate worker? What? That's not what it's called. Like mid-level, or like you're in a management position, then you're probably gonna get more suitable roles through a headhunter anyways at that level. So I would definitely suggest networking and connecting with people to help increase your visibility to jobs that aren't always publicly posted. This also wasn't a question, but I'm gonna use this opportunity to share it with you because I've been looking at some resumes lately and I thought of a couple of resume tips for people if you are applying to a job in Korea. Some tips that I would give for your resume. There's 3 things. So the first one is put a picture on it. I know, like, at least in North America, we don't do that. It's like illegal to ask for a picture of a person. But here in Korea, they don't ask for it, but it is generally, you know, considered a common practice to include your photo on your resume, so do that. The other thing I would say would be if you can include any sort of data on your resume, that's also really, really helpful. So if you, for example, worked in marketing and communications and you ran a social channel, on your resume, don't just talk about the fact that you ran a social media channel and you wrote the copy and whatever. Write about how much you grew it. And then the last thing I would suggest if you're writing an English resume for a Korean audience is that your resume is never just gonna go to one person. So even if the person that you're communicating with has like fluent, like next to native fluency, I'd still suggest that you write your resume in direct manner. I would just be considerate of the fact that the resume is going to go to multiple people, some of which will not speak English at all or may not speak English well. So if you can avoid more flowery language and just be very direct and clear about what your actual roles and responsibilities were at your job, I think you'll fare better as well. So those would also be my 3 sort of tips for resume writing. And also if you are interested in like a video on how you can structure a better resume, let me know, because maybe I will make a video about the resume that got me my job in Korea, I guess. Okay, these last 2 questions are just like bonus fun questions, but the first one is, have you tried Baskin Robbins in South Korea? Which I think is hilarious because not only have I tried Baskin Robbins, but, oh, you can't see it, and my hip just cracked. There's actually a Baskin Robbins box down there because I was at a party the other day and I took home an ice cream cake. So this is like an entire Baskin Robbins ice cream cake that we couldn't finish and I didn't want to throw it out. And so even though I really don't know when I'm ever gonna eat this, I took it home. So yes, I have tried Baskin Robbins in Korea. The last question is just, when I move to South Korea, can I hang out with you? And honestly, like, we probably will end up crossing paths. If you live here, then you know the foreigner community is really, really small. So if you do ever see me in public, which honestly you probably will, then feel free to say hi to me. You won't be the first, and I'm hoping you're not the last. People come up to me all the time. I love meeting you guys. So if you see me in public, feel free to say hi. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button. It means a lot and helps me tremendously as a small creator. I hope you have a fabulous, fantastic, what's another F word? Fucking awesome week, and I'll see you next weekend. Bye!